It looks like GTA home sellers are starting to accept reality. Now, of course, this isn't every single seller and it's not everywhere, but in the numbers, there is a clear, consistent pattern that I am seeing. And by the end of today's video, I'm going to break that all down for you. This is going to be across every region of the GTA. And I'm going to highlight one number later on in the video that really stopped me in my tracks when I was looking through this data that I think really highlights exactly what I am talking about. So let's get right into it. Before getting into the numbers, let's set some context in the macro. So number one, we want to look at rates. What are rates doing? Rates are down from the peak. We've been in a rate cutting cycle. Fixed mortgage rates are down as well. Back to about 2008, 2009 levels, as you can see from this ratehub.ca chart. Still pretty prohibitive territory, considering where home prices are at now versus where they're at 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago. Affordability is still a concern from that rates perspective. Another thing we want to look at is unemployment. That's a number that people have been really monitoring very closely. Held at 7.6% for another month, being up above 7% or at 7% really since August of 2024. So maybe not a ton of confidence there from consumers, especially considering everything that AI is doing to disrupt all sorts of industry. And the last thing is just the geopolitical turmoil right now, really crushing consumer confidence. I think people just don't really know what's going on, what's going to happen. Not a really confident time to be buying homes. So buyer confidence is still understandably shot and affordability is still a big concern. When you look at the other side of the equation, the sellers, the trend up until pretty recently was list for close to 2022 prices and see if somebody wants to pay that. That's what we've kind of been seeing. That's the strategy that has kind of stopped. And that's what I'm going to be diving into in today's video. Let's start at the very beginning here and talk about the first decision a homeowner makes when putting their property to the market, and that is the list price. And there's an indication here that there's some acceptance of reality because the list price for a detached property in the GTA in March of 2026 came in at a 5-year low. No, it's not back to pre-pandemic levels like a lot of people are hoping for, but reality does set in slowly and in steps. So this is definitely step one. The number right now is $1,342,400. Last year in March, it was $1,399,000. And again, back in 2021, the level that we haven't reached yet, it was back at $1,199,000. Every region is a little different. Peel is close to coming back to full circle to 21, or at least it is the closest of the 5 major regions we cover, but there's definitely still some room for those list prices to come down to get back to at least early pandemic pricing levels. We still got a long way to go if we're going to drop back down to pre-pandemic pricing levels, at least from a list price perspective, but that is where we're at right now. So step one, I'd say sellers are starting to list a little more honestly coming to market. Their expectations aren't as anchored in 2022, 2023 list prices. Pricing upfront honestly, though, isn't a guarantee in today's market that you are still going to sell. And I'm sure a lot of sellers can relate to this. What happens once a property is actually on the market? And that's where this table comes into play. In Toronto, for example, there are 2,391 active detached listings as of April 17th, and I'm recording this video. 295 of those have the status of a price change, and the vast majority of those are price changes downwards. It's not so much offer night failing and then repricing higher at this point in time, but that's 12.34% of all active listings are price change. If you go through the rest of the GTA, you can see that in York region, our high number is 16.49%. So you're getting sellers starting at a lower list price than we've seen in 5 years, and we are also seeing 1 in 6 to 1 in 8 of those detached homes reduce their list price in order to make something happen. A very different picture from where we were at even 18 months ago. Step two is what is happening at the negotiating table or in negotiations between buyers and sellers. And that's where this number comes into play. It's the percentage of sales below that list price. Again, I understand list price is completely arbitrary, but we are dealing with seller psychology and their acceptance of reality in this video. I'm not saying they've come all the way back to reality, but they are definitely starting to. So based on this number, in 2026, March of 2026, 72.3% of listings that sold below the ask price. So 2013, we had 76%, 2018, 73.2%, and 2019, 74.6%. So we haven't seen this kind of rate of underselling happen since going back to 2019, and we've only seen it happen 3 or 4 times in the past decade and a half. On top of all that, the sales look a lot different this year. And what I mean by that is buyers are getting conditions into offers at a much higher clip than we saw even last year at this time. So again, a sold conditional property is still an active listing on the MLS because it isn't actually off the market yet. It hasn't firmed up. And as of this week, 5.11% of active listings were either sold conditional or sold conditional with an escape clause. Last year at the same time, that was down at 3.84%. So again, much more frequently, you're seeing buyers get conditions into offers and have that type of success in negotiations as well. Two more things that quickly highlight sellers coming back to reality are days on market and termination. So in the past, we'd see terminations happening because a seller would believe, hey, I'm going to get more money in the spring market or the following fall market than I'm getting at the present time. Termination numbers have come down, meaning that sellers no longer feel like maybe the future is going to be better. Let's sell it now because this could be the best offer that we get for some time. So in March of 2026, we saw 2,113 terminations. That's down from 2,603 last year, kind of close to in line with what we saw back in 2018, where it was 2,149 terminations. And again, well below March 2022, even when we saw 2,437 terminations, kind of the start of the rate hiking cycle and this most recent correction. Days on market plays nicely off of terminations. When we were seeing lots of terminations, we were seeing days on market artificially reset on some of these listings. So if a property had been relisted 4 times and sold in 10 days on that 4th try, it would be showed as 10 days on market on the MLS. Sellers are choosing to stay on the market now as opposed to terminating and relisting a whole ton. And that's reflected in this number. So 17 was the median days on market for March of 2026, which is, higher than any previous March that we have seen going back to 2012. Now, finally, the number that I did promise to you at the beginning of the video that really stopped me in my tracks when I was looking through the data this month was the sold price to list price ratio. So I can always see the comments yelling at me that list price is completely arbitrary, but again, I'm just playing on sellers coming back to reality here a little bit, on buyers having a little more leverage in this market than we've seen in the past. And this number shows us that buyers may have more leverage relative to list price than we've had at any point in kind of modern real estate data era that we are in right now. So in March of 2026, the sold price to list price ratio was 97.3%. This is the lowest that we've seen in history for this metric, and it's been the same story throughout 2026 so far. In fact, if we go back through the years, there's only a handful of times that we have seen a lower sale price to list price ratio. One of them happened back in January of 2023 when that number was at 97%. And the other 2 times that this ratio has come in lower than where it's at currently is in 2026. Buyers are able to get in there and get the best deals relative to list price that we have seen in quite some time. When we break this number down regionally, you can see that Durham region is still seeing sellers do the best relative to list price. Maybe that means that those sellers have adjusted the quickest, but I think it has a lot to do with the prices in Durham region too. So that's coming at 98.5%, Toronto at 98.1%, then the 3 other regions coming in the 96. So Halton at 96.9%, York at 96.6%, and Peel region kind of bringing up the rear at 96.2% of list price. So really, it's not a trend in the GTA that's just being pulled down by 1 or 2 weak markets. Like, everybody is seeing home prices on average sell for less than they are listed for. Back to this chart very quickly, you can see that even just 2 years ago in March, the worst was Peel still, but it was at 98.8%. And we saw 3 markets that were still selling everything at or above listing. Not everything, but on average or on the median. And going back to March of 2023, a similar story, Toronto and Durham both up over 100, York right in sniffing distance of it, Peel and Halton region at 97.9 and 98.4% respectively. So definitely buyers doing better relative to list price, and list prices trending downwards in that time frame. What does all of this actually mean? If you're a buyer, the concessions that sellers are making are real. They are listing their houses for less. They are cutting prices at a rate of 1 in 6 to 1 in 8. they're accepting conditions more frequently, and buyers are getting the best price relative to list price that we have seen in almost 15 years. And that's very meaningful. I want to be crystal clear with you. The buyer hesitancy that I am seeing completely makes sense. It's not all of a sudden an easy market to get into. Affordability is a big concern. We talked about the macro uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty, all of these things that you have to consider. So while the gap is closing between seller expectations and what buyers are able to pay, thankfully from the seller side, whether or not it's enough for you to jump into the market is the decision that you need to make for yourself. If you're a seller, the market is speaking to you, and I feel like it has been speaking to you for some time now. It is all about being realistic right now. The only people that should be on the market right now are the truly motivated, need to sell people. It is not a time to be testing this market. It is not a time to be looking at what other people are listed for to determine what you should price your home at. You need to be looking at sold comparables, pricing to where the market is right now, not where you wish it was. Because when you get into that situation, that's when you get into the price cut game and you end up chasing the market downward. So anchoring your expectations back 2 or 3 years ago is kind of the anchor that will drag you down and really sink you. I'm by no means saying give your home away. Like I said, I don't want you selling if you don't have to sell in today's market. But if you are motivated to sell, let's be realistic about it, price aggressively, and get your property sold to prevent future losses. So that's all the data and rambling that I have in me for this week. If you enjoyed the video and you like this style of content and want to see more of it going forward, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and leave me a comment below which of these stats surprised you the most. I always love hearing what you're seeing out there. And if you're thinking of buying or selling a home in the GTA, especially if you're thinking about coming out here to Durham region, there is a link in the description of this video right to my calendar where you can book a call with me to talk through what you're thinking, what I am seeing, anything GTA real estate related. I'm always happy to have that conversation. Thanks so much for sticking with me right through to the end of another video. Until we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in seeing more of the work that I've done, there's a video on screen for you right now.